Monday to Sunday.
It's hard to explain, okay? But
all day, all year round.
it's so mysterious.
This is who we are.
This is who we are. WAVR.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Lagos. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Ghana's communications minister dismisses about 100 post staff over irregular recruitment.
Today, I have authorized the termination of a few more at Ghana Post, almost 100, that were done post-December 7th. And we'll continue this rationalization. I will clean up the ministry, make sure it is lean and efficient, and carries out its work.
Former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo expresses worry over declining state of democracy in Africa. West African CSOs lament the shrinking civic space in the sub-region.
Civic space across West Africa is shrinking at an alarming rate. And so this workshop aims to provide a platform for dialogue, for knowledge exchange, and strategic collaboration.
And University of Liberia Students Union calls for transparency and accountability in financial system. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
A warm welcome to our listeners within the sub-region and beyond. Newslink begins in Ghana, where the Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations, Sam George, has authorized the dismissal of nearly 100 staff of the Ghana Post Limited, citing an irregular recruitment process. The affected staff members were employed after the December 7, 2024 election, a period during which the minister says proper procedures were not followed. Speaking about the decision, Sam George expressed his commitment to clear up the Ministry of individuals whose recruitments were not in line with the established protocols. The communications minister further explained that the irregular recruitment had created a situation that has led to inefficiencies within the department.
People have raised questions about the staff rationalization ongoing at the ministry. But if you are a minister and you take over a ministry that has 3,117 staff in the ministry and its agencies, and you realize that almost 600 of them were recruited after December 7, basically, you cannot expect me to come and inherit such mess and continue with it. And so the rationalization is ongoing. Today, I have authorized the termination of a few more at Ghana Post, almost 100, that were done post-December 7. And we'll continue this rationalization. I will clean up the ministry, make sure it is lean and efficient, and carries out its work.
That's Ghana's Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations, Sam George. Still in Ghana, because the former National Signals Bureau Director, Kwabena Abdul-Burashin, has been arrested over an alleged $7 million cybersecurity scandal. Attorney General and Minister of Justice Dr. Dominic Ayin says investigations by anti-corruption agencies uncovered financial irregularities, including fraudulent transactions and unauthorized fund transfers linked to a cyber defense system contract. WADR correspondent Nadi Detete reports.
Ghana's Attorney General and Minister of Justice Dr. Dominic Ayine has confirmed the arrest of former National Signals Bureau Director Kwabena Abdul-Burashin over alleged financial misconduct involving some 49 million Ghana cedis, an equivalent of $7 million cyber defense contract. Speaking at a press briefing, Dr. Ayine disclosed that the deal, signed on January 30, 2020, between the government of Ghana and an Israeli firm, RLC Holdings Limited, was intended to enhance Ghana's cybersecurity capabilities. However, shortly after the agreement was finalized, irregular financial transactions raised red flags.
In essence, The difference between 49 million Ghana cedis being the money Mr. Dubois transferred from the bank account of the National BNC to his private BNC and 9.5 million being the money he actually paid to the ISC Holdings for the software ended up with him and his wife. That is to say that the sum of 39,462,480 Ghana cedis of taxpayers' money went into their private pocket.
Dr. Ayine further revealed that the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, has been tracking Dubois' financial activities, uncovering millions of cedis in suspicious transactions since 2018. Investigations indicate that Dubois, along with his wife and associate Angela J. Boateng, acquired multiple high-value properties, including luxury homes in Accra's Mayfair Estates, a 27-house gated estate in Oyarifa, and undisclosed properties in London. The government has assured that legal proceedings will commence soon, with Dr. Ayine reaffirming its commitment to holding individuals accountable for financial mismanagement. He also issued a stern warning to current appointees.
Now, I also want to take this opportunity to tell everyone in public office who's listening to me that if you engage in anything like what Mr. Dubois has done or any act of criminality, I will not wait. I will come after you.
For WADR, Nadiri Tete, Accra.
Here in Senegal, civil society organizations in West Africa have raised concerns about the decline in civic space in the sub-region. Speaking at the 3-day workshop for CSOs in Dakar, experts expressed concern about the increase in coups and authoritarianism regime in the region. They believe in a major threat to freedom of expression, democracy, and the region's stability. The 3-day workshop, organized by the West Africa Civil Society Institute, WASI, on the Civic Space Resources Hub in Dakar, Senegal, took place today. Sankle Janko attended the event and tells us more in this report.
This workshop themed Strengthening Social Movements for Civic Space Protection, Democratic Renewal and Resilience in West Africa brought together activists and human rights defenders from across the region. Activists say the state of democracy and civic space in West Africa has continued to deteriorate since the 2000s. They cited the Sahel region, particularly where military coups, violent extremism, and authoritarian governance have further restricted fundamental freedoms. Accordingly, reports indicate civic activism and democratic practices are under severe threat. The executive director of WASI, Dr. Nana Afajinu, highlights the significance of the meeting.
As we are all too aware, civic space across West Africa is shrinking at an alarming rate. And so this workshop aims to provide a platform for dialogue, for knowledge exchange, and strategic collaboration.
The head of policy, influencing and advocacy at WASI, Omolara Bologun, said the recent surge in coups and authoritarian rules has further exacerbated and restricted civil space in West Africa.
Drastic resurgence of military coup in the region, and this led to a further shrinking in civic space, inability of citizens to air their view on governance, inability to demand for transparency. We are seeing a lot of media repression. It was becoming challenging to speak even to traditional media without being picked up in your house the next day. We're seeing a lot of arbitrary arrest of activists and human rights defenders across the region.
Meanwhile, Alum Babio, a participant from Ghana, shares her expectations from the workshop.
My expectations for this program is for us to be having different conversations about strategizing and re-strategizing more and more radically in the wave of the new trends that keep happening in our spaces that largely contribute to the shrinkage of our spaces.
Generally, West Africa has witnessed a backsliding in democracy and civic space in recent years, according to reports. In 2024 alone, over 90% of West Africa's population live in countries where civic freedoms are either repressed or obstructed, according to the Civic Course Monitor. Experts describe this trend as alarming, saying it is exacerbated by a resurgence of military regimes, while democratic institutions have been dismantled and civil society faces unprecedented challenges.
Sankule Janko fight that report. Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, said on Monday that talks on a new program for Senegal could not go ahead until the government addresses the misreporting of key economic data on the previous government. Recalled, the IMF suspended its existing $1.8 billion credit facility to Senegal pending a review of state finances, which confirmed last month that the debt and budget deficit were much wider than former President Macky Sall's administration had reported. Finance Minister Sheikh Diba said Senegal was hoping for a new IMF program by June. Senegal's Court of Auditors last month released a long-awaited review of the country's finances that confirmed the previous government misreported key economic data, including debt and deficit figures.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Elsewhere, former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo has expressed concern about the declining state of democracy on the African continent. Speaking at a colloquium held in Abuja today to mark the 60th birth anniversary of former governor of Imo State, Emeka Ahijoa, the former president called for re-evaluation of democracy in the context of Africa. Delivering the keynote address titled "It's Democracy Failing in Africa," Obasanjo stated that democracy in Africa has failed because it's not African, as it is deficient of the continent's culture. Here is Obasanjo speaking.
Democracy has now become representative democracy, and representative democracy has not taken care of everybody. Today we have democracy, which is government of small number of people by small number of people over large number of people who are deprived of what they need to have in life. Now that is not democracy that will endure. So if you are talking of democracy failing in Africa, democracy in Africa has failed. And why has it failed? Because it didn't have any, in context and in content, it's not African. It does not have any aspect of our culture, our way of life, what we stand for, what we believe. Ubuntu, I am because we are. It is, I am because I can grab. And if we are going to make democracy not to die, we have to look at democracy in the context and in the content of Africa.
Nigeria's former president Olusegun Obasanjo. Still in Nigeria, a pro-democracy coalition has urged Nigerian President Bola Tinubu to establish a reconciliation committee within 14 days aimed at addressing the ongoing political crisis in Rivers State. The coalition of civil society in defense of democracy made the call following President Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in the oil-rich state, which led to the suspension of Governor Simi Nalayi Fubara, his deputy, and the Rivers State House of Assembly for 6 months. As Usma Umar reports, some women of faith-based organization have gathered to pray for the restoration of peace in the politically tensed oil-rich state.
Olayemi Isaacs, convener of the Coalition of Civil Society in Defense of Democracy, condemned the state of emergency in Rivers State, calling it a forced peace that shields deeper tensions. He accused President Tinubu of backing Nyesom Wike, who he blamed for the crisis, and urged a non-partisan panel to mediate within 60 days, warning that prolonging emergency rule could destabilize Nigeria's democracy.
The Coalition of the Civil Society in Defense of Democracy demands immediately that the President Tinubu within 14 days set up a panel of non-partisan eminent Nigerians to mediate between the rival parties in the Rivers State crisis. The mediatory effort must be concluded within 60 days so that the state of emergency can be lifted within 90 days of its declaration. Anything other than that will bring about a political pandemonium or chaos or anarchy, which is not our expectation.
Meanwhile, the emergency declaration has drawn criticism from various individuals and groups, including former President Goodluck Jonathan, who expressed concerns about the implications for democracy and governance in the country. In a related development, a group of women gathered in Port Harcourt, capital of the state, to pray for peace in Rivers State, calling for divine intervention to restore stability.
We have been coming out to pray and intercede for peace in our state, Rivers State, for restoration, because we know that if anything goes south, it will affect us.
We are here to pray for peace, for God to restore peace in Rivers State as a whole. Let there be peace. Why we are praying for peace? Because if peradventure anything happen, it will affect everybody in the state.
For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Ghana's communications minister dismisses about 100 post staff over irregular recruitment. Former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo expresses worry over declining state of democracy in Africa. West African CSOs lament the shrinking service space in the sub-region. Still ahead, University of Liberia Students' Union calls for transparency and accountability in financial system. We also have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for being there with us. As a reminder, we are streaming live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Let's now take you to the Central Sahel region, particularly in Burkina Faso, where the President and Vice President of the Association of Journalists of Burkina, Gesuma Sanogo and Bokari Uba, were arrested and taken to an undisclosed location on Monday. This arrest occurred just 3 days after the association's General Assembly, where the two men criticized the shrinking space for freedoms in the country. Here is a report from Ouagadougou, voiced by Abdoulaye Hassan.
The information has been confirmed by colleagues who are members of the Association of Journalists of Burkina. President Guazomo Sanogo and Vice President Bokari Waba were detained on Monday, March 24. According to a post on the official social media account of the AJB, the two journalists were taken by individuals identifying themselves as intelligence officers from the CMP-NZ to an unknown destination. During its extraordinary congress, the president of the Association of Journalists of Burkina had described RTB Television and AIB as propaganda tools, denouncing the government's control over these public media outlets. Given the deepening crisis, the current trend is complete control by MPSR2 over public media, with RTB Television and AIB becoming the two main propaganda tools, stated Guazoma Sanogo. In a statement released shortly after the arrest, Reporters Without Borders expressed regret over the detentions. The method of operation and arrest carried out by individuals claiming to be intelligence officers echoes numerous other arrests and abductions orchestrated by military authorities since they came to power. The war effort promoted by the leader of the Burkinabe junta, Captain Ibrahim Traore, is once again being used as a pretext to dismantle journalism in Burkina Faso, the organization said in its statement.
That was Martin Kabal's report from Ouagadougou, voiced by Abdoulaye Hassan. Let's now take you to Liberia, where the University of Liberia Student Union has expressed support for part-time instructors at the state-run university, demanding transparency and accountability in the institution's financial management. Addressing students at the Capitol Hill campus today, the union's president, Jacqueline Tingba, urgently called on the government of Liberia to allocate necessary funding to ensure a conducive learning environment for the over 22,000 students enrolled at the university.
Also stands in solidarity with University of Liberia part-time instructors, calls for transparency and accountability in UL financial system, demands UL to make funding available for smooth learning purpose for over 22,000 students at the state-run university and operational funds. It is therefore imperative that those responsible for these discrepancies be identified and held accountable to set a precedent that discourages malpractices. This commitment of financial justice is rooted in the broader struggle for student empowerment, ensuring that resources meant for student development are utilized appropriately and equitably. It is in this light that we join the part-timers and call for immediate radical transformatory action in the financial department of the university. Also, in alignment with part-time instructors and the Joint Faculty Association, hereby demand swift action of the government and the University of Liberia administration to address the following concerns: payment of all salary arrears owed to part-time instructors.
Jacqueline Timba is president of the University of Liberia Students' Union.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
The guest interview segment takes us to Ghana, where the anti-corruption putsch by President John Mahama's administration seems to be intensifying. This follows several arrests of personnel and office holders of previous administration, that's Nana Akufo-Addo's government, which has been termed as harassment by the minority in parliament. However, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, has denied the claims. Anthony Akoi, a security expert, takes a look at this and other concerns.
Yes, I'm back of fighting against corruption. In this case, the one that took place in the erstwhile administration, led by the Nanado administration, is, I would say that it is a promise that Mahama government promised Ghanaians. And this is a signal that, as he indicated, that he is resetting Ghana. It is not just a signal to the, I would say, the erstwhile appointees and those who are also appointed within either the public sector or the private sector, which the government might have partnership with. And that probably took advantage of that appointment by creating some kind of corruption within their domain. It is a signal that also sends to the current appointees that are being appointed by president to be managing other state assets or any private collaboration with the state in terms of any domain. I can tell you for a fact that from the kind of information that is coming up, just yesterday, the Attorney General had a press conference engaging the media on some critical evolving issue. One he made mention was the Mr. Edubwani. Mr. Edubwani happened to be the head of the National Signal Agency or Authority. And for that matter, a contract with regard to cyber security defense system that he was supposed to purchase, and that collaboration with Israel, according to the Attorney General's office, that amounted to $7 million. And out of that money, about 39 million CD was just, were nowhere to be found. And that even contrasts, as it stands now, we do not have any value for money.
But the opposition are saying this is a witch hunt, especially those in the parliament. Do you see that as a witch hunt?
It is really unfortunate that institutions that have been mandated by the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, to uphold the principle of their domain, applying those principles to ensure that the public purse are being, safeguarded. And unfortunately, coming from the domain of Parliament, which is the minority side, trying to cast shadows on the activity or the very, program that have been mounted by these institutions. But for me, as a security expert, I think that in the domain of security, depending on what really happened, that will determine the approach that the security are supposed to use. So any, comment by the minority, of course, they are the minority, they will have their say. But it is important for them to understand that institutions are being mandated to do what they are doing. And it is clear. They have come out that even with the raid, of course, they did have the warrant, from court to go there and do whatever they have to do. So if they are operating within the domain of the law, then where lies the minority speech by condemning the activities?
Anthony Akoyi is a security expert there in Ghana. Now, in the world of sports, Sankule Janko is right here in studio to tell us more. Good evening, Sankule, and how are you doing now?
Yes, good evening. Augustine, I am doing all right.
Well, there is a disappointing result coming from the Super Eagles of Nigeria in their World Cup qualifier game today against Zimbabwe.
Absolutely. It was really heartbreaking because Nigeria's World Cup dreams have hit a massive blow, Augustine, after they were held to a 1-1 draw by Zimbabwe at the Okpabio Stadium early today. Star player Victor Osimhen thought he had scored the winner for the Super Eagles, only for Zimbabwe to find the equalizer in stoppage time to break the hearts of the Super Eagle fans. Meanwhile, group leaders South Africa extended their lead to 13 points in Group C following their 2-0 win to Benin. The result puts Nigeria third in Group C with only 7 points, behind Rwanda in second with 8 points and South Africa on top of the group with 13 points. After 6 matches, the other results in match day 6 of that were played today: Uganda 0, Uganda 1 rather, Guinea 0, Angola 1, Cape Verde 2, Lesotho 1, Rwanda 1.
So what becomes of the Super Eagles now?
What becomes of them is they need to win all of their remaining 4 games and hope South Africa sleeps, because if not, it wouldn't make a difference. I think it's too little too late. Mathematically, they can still equalize, but that is if South Africa sleeps.
And this is a competition, so no one would like to be taken down. But yes, there are some hot fixtures coming up.
Absolutely, there are very, very, very interesting results tonight. Augustine, let's begin with your Liberia. No, Liberia is not playing. They played there yesterday. I'm just teasing you.
You have something against Liberia.
No, I don't actually. But Cameroon will take on Libya tonight, and Morocco will entertain Tanzania. Meanwhile, Burundi will welcome Seychelles. Botswana will take on Somalia. Algeria will entertain Mozambique, while Comoros will take on Chad. South Sudan will take on Sudan in an all-Sudan affair that promises to be an intriguing game of football to watch tonight. And Mauritania will welcome DR Congo. Egypt will take on Sierra Leone. And guess what?
What?
Later tonight at the Abdoulaye Wade Stadium in Diamniadio, Senegal, the Senegal Lions will take on Togo.
We got to keep our eyes up, man.
Are you looking forward to watching that game?
Yes, but anyway, hopefully so. But, that's the schedule, so we have to just keep it up.
And I'll tell you, quickly, let me give you a rundown of Senegal's group. It's very interesting, Augustine, because interestingly, Senegal were... when this draw was made, everyone thought, okay, it's going to be an easy ride for Senegal. But I'll tell you, that's not the case, because as it stands in the group, Senegal is third in the group with 9 points.
Yeah.
DRC is in second with 10 points. Guess who is on top of this particular group?
Who's on top?
Sudan.
And they were
held to...
Yes, a goalless draw, right?
Exactly. So you see how interesting, and they will be taking on South Sudan. If they win, questions will begin to ask, can Senegal really make it to United States and Canada 2026 World Cup?
That's the question. That's the question. Thank you, Sankule, the sportive Django there, bringing us up to speed with the latest in the world of sports. And that's it on this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Maudo Diouf and Umu Danyogo for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Cully. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.